All right, our first example, here's the way the problem will be worded. Find f inverse prime of a for the function f and the given real number a. So it gives us this function, and a equals -2. So what they're asking us to do is we want to find the slope of the inverse of this function at x equals -2. That's what we're trying to find. All right. So first off, this notation is very confusing, especially when we start trying to take the derivative of it and make it a prime and all this stuff. So I'm going to rename f inverse as g. Okay, so I want to state that. I can't just start writing g. I have to state where g came from in this problem, and I have to let the grader or whoever's reading my problem understand I'm going to let g of x equal f inverse. All right, and then we have this formula, g prime of x equals 1 over f prime of g of x, and I want g prime of -2, so here's the formula that I have. Right, so I have a couple different challenges here. Okay, the first thing is I need to know what g of -2 is. G of -2 is the inverse of this function. I don't know the inverse of this function, and if I try to find it, it's not easy to find. So I really don't want to go there. Okay, but I want to know what g of -2 is. Here's the thought process. I know that these things are inverses, so if I can figure out what value I have to put in f to give me a -2, then that will tell me, let's say this is a big question mark, f of something equals -2. That means g of -2 equals that same something. Right, so let's look at our function. We have x cubed plus 5x, this is f of x again, plus 4. I want to know when that's going to equal -2. Now I have a few different ways of doing this. Generally, when I see this kind of a function, I'm going to get it equal to 0 and try to do something. But look closely at this. This is x cubed, not x squared. Right, I can still do this. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. But this isn't just a function that I can factor and set equal to 0 and that kind of thing, right? So don't panic. Let's try some simple examples. Let's try, what if x equaled 1? I would get 1 plus 5 plus 6, that's 12. So that doesn't work. What if x was equal to 0? I'd get 0 plus 0 plus 6, I would get 6, so that doesn't work either. What about -1? Then I would have -1 cubed is -1, minus 5 is -6, plus 6 is equal to 0. All right. So what I figured out is that f of -1 is equal to -2. Right. That means that g of -2 is equal to -1, and that's something that we need to put here. Right. So this idea of f of -1 gives me this side equal to -2 is either going to be something that we can factor and solve in the terms of some kind of a quadratic, or it's going to be something that has a very easy to guess and check solution. So don't panic when you see these. Try some of the most obvious values and see what you can figure out. Right. So the end result is that we have this g of -2 equals -1. Right. We also know the derivative of f of x cubed plus 5x plus 4 is just 3x squared plus 5. So we can come back to this formula that we have for g prime of -2, 1 over f prime of g of -2. G of -2 is -1, so it's 1 over f prime of -1. So this, as I just substitute -1 into the derivative, I get 1 over 3 times -1 squared plus 5. So g prime of -2 equals 1/8. Right. So what we did there was we found the slope of the inverse of f at a certain place without actually finding the inverse. That's a pretty powerful tool. We're going to do one more example of this type.